So this is vlog 17. I think I had recorded it and then I just erased it, and now it's like Wednesday or some shit. I usually do it on Saturdays, so and then I don't do this because I give a shit if anyone watches it. I don't never know what's going to happen to me, or I never know if this could be of any benefit for people going through ME. I'm sweating a lot right now because it's really hot and I don't have my air conditioner installed because I have to clean it out before I install it. Anyways, um, things are going as you would suspect with having this illness. Um, I've been writing a lot more for some reason. I don't know why. I've just been sort of committed to doing that. I'm up to like just 11,000 words this week on my blog, which I will not bore you with, but it has nothing to do with myalgic encephalomyelitis. It's just a political economics blog. But anyways, this vlog will be kind of devoted to spectacle and my beef with algorithms. Now, it really doesn't have much to do with ME per se, but I'll get around to it. So the spectacle is not something that I necessarily give a shit about. Um, I've read plenty of media theory, unnecessarily, mind you, because it's not like important to know. Um, Guy Debord is supposedly supposed to be um, somewhat prescient about social media and whatnot. Um, I don't find it convincing, even as a precursor to something like manufacturing consent, right? Jean Baudrillard, same thing, don't care. Um, Roland Barthes, on whose book I actually used as for my thesis project, Mythologies. Um, same thing. And then of course there's like the Frankfurt School and their concepts on like the culture industry, and doesn't matter, right? And you can think of plenty of examples that sort of typify what you would consider like a spectacle, even like during like the television age, um, like um, like the O.J. Simpson trial or some shit. I don't know, but anyways, in the quote unquote information economy and the attention economy and the digital economy and social media, which is has this the um, line between the digital space and the real world is always blurring. Um, but I think if anything, it says more about us. Um, there's more to be said about what is still appealing to the masses, right? If you want to get into it, and so my beef really is that I'm on YouTube. I mean, I'm watching YouTube. I'm also on it, but I watch it. And occasionally, every once in a while, like I'll get like this morbid like suggestion, like, and it's always like saying goodbye, my last days. This will be my last post. The end is near, and it's either a content creator um, who is dying and like there's some update about their death because they had cancer, or it is someone who got into content creation to like bring awareness to whatever illness that they have, usually cancer, right? And so I don't really have a beef with cancer per se. I have a beef with the algorithm for suggesting it, because While it is sad, obviously, right? What you typically see are the people who are um, unlikely to live, right? So it's kind of like it's on the border of like what you would call like inspiration pornography, right? There's probably a better terminology for it, but like um, it reminds me of that a bit. And why I have a beef with it is because our disease burden impact is so much worse. Like I just saw this video that like Good Morning America posted, and it was about like this woman's, final days or something. She had posted her goodbyes on TikTok or something, and it was like sort of like a, like what basically amounts to a digital "I died" note, right? Like it's not a suicide note, but it's like a digital. Oops! I also, by the way, I died. You know, and here's people should know. Um, I'm not saying it's an ego-driven thing. I'm just saying it's so deeply embedded in the culture that we have to tell everyone what we're doing up until the very last second that we're breathing and conscious, which is fucking mind blowing to me. But anyways, what I found interesting about it was that in the video she's still like doing things, right? Whereas like an ME's person video would just be. I think the reason why is because maybe perhaps it's not that no well known of an illness, right? It's psychologized. Um, Not many people know someone with the illness, right? Because in the comment section, you'll know like, oh, my dad had it, I had it, whomever had it, my relative had it, someone I know had cancer. Very rarely will you find someone you know who has um, myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome or any of these other sort of syndromes, right? It's not rare. It's just that you don't know anyone who has it. That's it. There's no social recognition of it at the level of cancer, obviously, which is obviously more prevalent. But it's just there's less social recognition, even there is of something like Alzheimer's or ALS or MS or something like that, which are on like somewhat par with um, myalgic encephalomyelitis. Anyways, so I think part of it is that like we wouldn't be able to put out a video. Not that we of the we wouldn't be putting out videos maybe of us dying, but we couldn't like put out a video and really have anyone give a shit. We have like famous people who do have myalgic encephalomyelitis, like with famous for in like the community, but like even then they don't get like much recognition. Um, they're like just known or some notoriety to us. Um, so I think people are kind of beholden, not necessarily to this the idea of the spectacle, but they're really much more beholden to um, what the algorithm pushes, and the algorithm pushes things like just what is relatable to people, which is cancer. Our illness is not relatable to people. Um, Even rarer diseases would not be relatable to people. Mind you, there are extremely rare cancers. Now, mind you, cancer is so broadly used, right? We forget that there's hundreds of different types of cancers, and then there's really, really, really rare types of cancer, right? But for some reason, they get just as much coverage as the non-rare ones, or they get more coverage than something that's more prevalent, like again, myalgic encephalomyelitis, right? Um, so it's like this blanket term which gets a lot of empathy and sympathy, and therefore it gets a lot of attention, and it receives um, it receives a lot of just cultural acknowledgement and um, it's a reminder that on some level, which kind of sucks, that like we don't exist, right? They're allowed to die, but up until the moment of their death, they're still allowed to like exist and um, have like some sort of social identity, right? Um, the real more when people always compare like myalgic encephalomyelitis to AIDS because there's some sort they think there's some sort of like um, immune dysregulation or deficiency at the level of like I don't know like CD4 or CD8 or something like that. I don't know disruption. Um, what the real parallel is about social death, which I've talked about before. Right, that's the real parallel. Right, that social death precedes the actual death or immiseration or decline or whatever, what have you. Right, that to me seems to be the stronger parallel. Um, and even so, AIDS doesn't get any more attention anymore because no one's dying of it unless it's another country that doesn't have the medication or the adequate or requisite levels of like sex education and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, it's but I also do find it slightly bizarre that we do record ourselves because I always knew it was going to happen. Like I always remembered when I first when social media first came out and people like were um, announcing like the most innocuous things, like I just having a bad day, or just got back from the library, or just had coffee with Bill or something, or like posting like things of like images of like things they ate or something or whatever, which is gives a shit, right? I knew it was going to it was going to just creep into every facet of life. And that's, we used to have actual private lives. That used to be a thing. There used to be like a private society, right? There was a difference between public and private society, right? Um, and on some level, and you kept the two separate from one another. And it wasn't a matter of like, I don't think it was necessarily a matter of like courtesy or um, politeness or impoliteness, right? It had more. I think it probably had more to do with like religion, right? Um, the good things that you did or whatever, the um, or the unnotable things that you did, you kept to yourself, and the bad things you disclosed to your priest or your whomever, your whatever, your pastor, your imam, I don't know, whatever. So that's how it was usually typically done. Now everything seems like an actual confessional, like this, right? This is a confession booth right here, right? Or whatever it's called. So it's that's what it feels like now. Everything's like a confessional, um, and I understand that it does have a purpose because again it brings awareness. It allows people to. There is still some level of connectivity, I suppose, between what this screen and the screen that whoever watches anything on. Um, but I think it probably is. I lean towards the side of it being probably more deleterious to uh, human health and development, how we perceive our own selves, and um, how we're able to deal with not being seen. Right? I think people don't even think they exist if they're not on social media or if they're not not all people, but in the main people who have access to internet and technology don't feel that they exist if they don't have um, if they don't have an Instagram, or if they didn't tell people that they went on vacation that week, or whatever. And you can just say, well, they're just celebrating their life or whatever the case may be. But we kind of used to do that without telling anyone. I suppose we had scrapbooks, right? I guess, I mean, is that what Instagram is. It's just a digital scrapbook, right? But it's, I mean, I remember when I had a scrapbook, it was kept in under like 9 feet of other things in the basement somewhere. Like it was hidden, like it was like a forbidden text or something like that, right? You know, it wasn't like, I mean, you could look at it, but it was like like no one gave a shit about it. It wasn't like people were like dying to look at our, you know, Christmas photos from 1989. Like no one gave it. Who gives a shit? You know. I mean, of course we've always documented things, but we've never documented things for everyone at large at society. It's never been this ubiquitous um, I, social aquarium, right? It's just so yeah. And when it comes to its intersection with disease, it seems kind of bullshit that like people with ME or MECFS or any other kind of illness of that isn't cancer apparently, or isn't some other heartbreaking illness that someone else can resonate with. Um, there's not ever going to be a channel where that's going to be like I recommend that you take a look at this person's you know vlog, because it'll give you an idea, and no, it's never going to happen for us. I don't even know of anyone of ME. Someone I think there's one guy who has ME who's like a political correspondent of some kind, and he's like Russian or Ukraine. I have no clue what he is, but and I do follow him. His name is like Vlad something or whatever, and I do follow him on Twitter, and I think he has ME, and he has like over 100,000 followers because he's, you know, he's like a journalist or some sort of like at least like geopolitical correspondent of some sort. And but other than that, but he's not being followed because he has ME. He's being followed because he gives like insightful opinions, I suppose, on like the situation that's happening between Russia and Ukraine at this point. So that's all I really had to say. I didn't really want to like get into the weeds about any of those authors or the spectacle per se, but like it just sucks that like cancer gets all the attention, like all the eyes on it. Like cancer benefits the most from the spectacle. I'm not saying that, again, I'm not, there's nothing against people who have cancer. I'm just saying that like cancer as a cancer is like its own like name brand or something. I'm not, I wouldn't go far as saying like it's been commodified, but like it is something, it's well marketed. It's so well marketed that um, people are able to follow along with like a story with it. Like they can follow a narrative with it. Everyone knows the narrative, right? One day you're fine. The next day you get bad news from your doctor, right? And then the journey begins. Now there's all these scans and imaging you have to get. They got to find out what stage it's in. They have to find out what, you know, if it's spread to anywhere, if it's metastasized, if it's metametastasized, whether it's mini metastasis, all these different things that they walk you through, and they have to tell you now I'm starting chemotherapy and radiation, and then they keep you updated on whether it worked or not, and then they tell you, well, the cancer, you know, there's all these peaks and valleys in the story. Like my cancer went away, it came back, right? And then, oh, I have bad news. My doctor is giving me now a timeline. I have 6 months to live. I have 3 months to live. I have 1 month to live. This is my last post. It's like a story, and so that's really what it distinguishes it from ME, is that we don't have a unified story to tell, right? Whereas all cancer patients seem to have, at least whether they succumb to it or recover, a known story that we don't have. And this thing's going blurry on me. It doesn't matter. So, anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye.